Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. Founded in 2013, the EHL has become the college placement leader on the East Coast. Sit back and learn more about the next step in your junior hockey career.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, we take care of our own, as they help out all of those within the hockey community who've experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. What's up? My name is Neil Ravin, and this is episode number 149 of the E-Show. On this week's episode, we kick things off with an interview featuring Austin Master, an alum of the Philadelphia Little Flyers and the current captain at Stevenson University. Master joins the podcast to discuss his selection to the World University Games and what it means to represent his country. Following the interview, the E-Crew gets back together for an annual tradition. It's that time of year again, where the podcast creates bulletin board material for the rest of the season. Find out who we're picking to reach the 2023 Frozen Finals at the end of March. And just as a reminder and a disclaimer, we will all have one last chance to reset our choices right before the start of the postseason.
Hello, E-Show. Today I am joined by Stevenson University captain and EHL alumni Austin Master. Austin was recently selected for the World University Games in Lake Placid. He will be representing Team USA alongside some of the best Division III talent in the nation as they compete against other countries including Hungary, Japan, Sweden, Great Britain, and Canada. Austin was a member of the 43-1 Little Flyers team back in the 18-19 season before moving on to college hockey. He is now in his fourth year at Stevenson University. Austin, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, for the first time in your career, you're getting to represent your country on a national stage. What is it like to hear that? Is this like a surreal moment for you?
Yeah, it's definitely surreal. I feel like for anybody, as a hockey player, just being able to kind of represent your country on a national stage, is pretty I don't know, pretty surreal in a way. I mean, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity for sure.
And so this is the first time that Division III athletes have been included in the event. Did that add any pressure to your shoulders, do you think?
No, I mean, just maybe a little bit just because it's the first time for D3 players, but no, I think the kids who are picked, I think it's going to be a good group of guys, and I think we're going to bring a lot of skill and a lot of fight for the tournament.
So for those other guys, only 22 other players in the entire nation selected. So, you don't have to be humble here. What do you think is the reason that you made it?
I think for me, it's just I play a 200-foot game. I like to play in all three zones. I mean, I have a little bit of skill and then have a little bit of grit as well. So I think that's probably the biggest key for me, just because I can play in all three zones and kind of be accountable in every zone.
And there are only a few schools that have multiple players. Stevenson is one of them. So what does it say about the growing program at Stevenson?
Oh, definitely. It's huge for the program. I know the program's a little bit newer, and we're getting better each year. So it just shows you how important just D3 is as a hockey group as like in general, and then how Stevenson it's growing. I mean, the kids, everyone's hardworking by nature. That's our motto. So, I mean, all the hard work kind of paid off for both of us. So,
and in terms of preparation for this event, is it anything out of the ordinary for you, or are you just taking it as you normally do?
definitely just going to take it as I normally do. I don't want to push too much things and get kind of sidetracked. So, kind of just relax and just going to be ready to go when the time comes.
And in your 4 years, you've given a lot to Stevenson. Your name's captain, and does this feel like sort of recognition back from the school after all you've given them?
Yeah, in a way. I mean, I feel like not only just me, but everyone there has been. We've always worked hard all 3 years, 4 years of my senior class. So being able to get this opportunity, it's pretty big for, as I said, for our school and the program. So yeah, I mean, recognition is definitely there.
And although this is an event that's in the United States, it is a global setting. So, playing against other teams from other nations off the ice, what are you looking to get out of that experience?
The opportunity. I mean, you get to be around the best players, best university players around the world. Just kind of meeting them, seeing what their kind of skills are like. And even with the team, just meeting a group of guys that I've never met before. So just kind of, yeah, just being together, just having a good time, because once, as I said before, it's once in a lifetime kind of opportunity. So.
And you get to be there with a teammate of yours. So do you think that's going to help your overall level of adjustment and comfortability?
Definitely. I mean, being there with Kenny is going to be huge. I mean, I know it's a big opportunity for both of us. So yeah, definitely having him there is going to help.
And on the ice, what do you think the challenge will present itself in terms of the unfamiliarity of playing players from other countries?
Just the different skill levels, honestly. I mean, looked up in the past. I know like my roommate, he's at school, he's from Slovakia, and I know a few guys from their team on Slovakia's team are professional players. They take university classes, so it's definitely going to be an adjustment for all of us, but I think it's going to be a good opportunity.
And one of the things we love at the EHL is seeing alumni move on to big things. As this is huge. But you were a member of that Little Flyers team back in 1819. They were one of the best teams in the history of the league. So, what are some of your favorite memories from being back in the E?
Just the whole year in general. I mean, that was by far one of the best years I've ever had as a hockey player. Till this day, I still talk to all the teammates. I mean, this week, I've been skating with probably 6 or 7 of the guys from the team. So it's pretty cool just to be around all those guys still to this day and still kind of playing with them and everything.
What was their reaction to hearing about the USA news?
They're happy. I mean, they know that just like anyone, for instance, just like 1-year-old teammates being picked, it's pretty cool experience. So yeah, they were happy.
And the EHL, we pride ourselves on being the path to college. So how do you think your year spent here prepared you for that kind of game?
Good. I mean, I think Mark Hatron did a great job. I think I had some of the tool sets to go to college, but he kind of instilled confidence in my game. I think that's like one of the most important pieces for a hockey player, just confidence. So he helped me develop that and helped me pursue where I am at today in a way. So.
And looking back to year one at college, what was the biggest adjustment for you? What was the biggest obstacle, would you say?
For me, I would say just speed. Speed is, and just speed, because I feel like in juniors you're able to kind of make some turnovers and kind of get away with it. But here you have to be accountable, as I said, in all 3 zones. But yeah, just adjusting to the speed.
And this time of the year is huge for commitments in the EHL. So do you have any advice for junior players in the league today that are kind of in that stage of their life right now?
Just keep working hard, kind of just be confident in your game. The schools will come, the ones that want you, they'll come, they'll show interest, and pick a school that really wants you, not just because who they are or whatnot. Whatever school wants you, that's where you should go.
And what are your plans for post school, if you have any right now?
For me, I might want to try and play pro. We'll see how it goes after the year. I kind of want to finish our season, kind of try to win the UCHC this year for Stevenson, bringing the first title back to them. But just after see what's out there, see what I have options and everything.
So your brother's a pro player currently in the ECHL with the Maine Mariners. So what role did he play in terms of your game growing up? Was he sort of a mentor figure? Only a couple years older.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we used to grow. Yeah, I mean, we lived 5 minutes down the rink or down the street from a roller rink. We used to go there every day, kind of just skate around. We would have the rink to ourselves, just skate around, just work on a bunch of stuff. But definitely in the last few years, I think it's been even bigger, just because he's been kind of guiding me in like the right direction and kind of pushing me to be better in a way. But yeah, I mean, couldn't have done it without him. So.
And have you talked with them at all about, your post-college dreams of going pro?
Yeah, I have. We've talked numerous times about it. We talk a lot about it in the summer and stuff when we're skating and everything. But yeah, we've definitely talked about it.
He thinks you could do it?
He does. He does.
I
It
like to
just
hear that.
it just depends. It's a big jump, not only for myself, but it's a big jump. I got to be ready for it, and then I just gotta, I gotta improve my game in certain areas as well to even make that jump. So,
And finally, off the ice, what are some things that Austin Master likes to do?
for me, I like to go to the beach. I'm a big beach guy. The Jersey Shore is like my favorite place. So so in the summers, I like to, if I'm not working or training, I'll just go down there on the weekends, kind of relax. It's just a big relaxing spot for me and my family. And then, I like playing Xbox with the boys. I'm a big Xbox player, so I like to play with a big group of guys from the team. Even kind of play with some guys from my Little Flyers team. So, yeah, that's what I like to do.
What's the game of choice right now?
Right now it's between Call of Duty or NHL. Mainly NHL, just because me and my roommates we create the little club team, so we play with each other. It's pretty fun. But yeah, definitely those two games.
All right, most important question of all, what division club are you guys right now?
We are one.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Quickly, you got there quickly. Yeah. That game didn't come out too long ago.
Yeah, I know. No, we play a lot. I mean, I have some kids on my team that we play with that are very skilled at the game. They're up at the elite status. I'm not there yet. Oh, I don't know if I'll ever be there, but yeah, definitely a good time playing with them. So,
all right, Austin, thank you very much for joining us, and we can't wait to see you represent the country.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
This week's episode is brought to you by Hockey Tech, the developers for the new EHL app, available now in both Apple and Google stores. And with that, let's bring in supposed to be the entire E crew, but guys, we're definitely on winter break right now. You can say that, right?
I'd say so. Are we missing someone?
We're missing Tyler.
Tyler missing what?
Could be sleeping. I'm not really sure, but we have the rest of the crew here in Jeff, Jake, Anthony, Trevor, and myself. So, and we have all of our picks.
Oof.
We teased this all last week on the podcast. I think I want to call this episode an annual tradition. Is that okay?
Yeah,
because it is an annual tradition every year.
It's our fourth year doing this since 2019.
Traditions are supposed to make me feel warm and happy. This is
that's a good point.
Stressful.
Is it our fourth year, Jeff?
Hey, speak for yourself, Jake. I love this tradition.
It's our
fourth
third year.
E-show.
It's our third year of the picks because the podcast came out in January of 2020.
Right. You are correct, sir. Look at that. I actually got to miss that the first year. Woo! Just been sweating ever since.
So third year of the picks. And remember, we can change our picks in March because we're going to have an episode right before the playoffs start where we actually fill out our bracket. And
Jake, you hate this? Oh, wait till you fill out the bracket. That's
the bracket's awesome. 2 weeks.
I mean, is it though, Neil? Is it? I don't know.
Well, yeah, because then
some say awesome, some say
when you pick the Rough Riders to sweep Team Maryland. Remember, I did that 2 years ago, and then the Maryland owner calls me up afterwards and was like, "Awesome pick." Yeah, that's fun. I mean,
these are just the beginning of the bulletin board material. Yeah, then you get the dartboards that are the brackets, and it's like all hands on deck.
And last year, I actually picked the Ducks. Anthony, you can laugh in a second. I actually picked the Ducks to beat the 87s in their first round series. And when and then Matt Herrick grabs the championship trophy, looks at me with the trophy, and he says Ducks in 2, and then he gave it away.
That's right. So they take it all the way to EHL Frozen
Wow.
Final Championship Sunday, folks.
It reminds me of one of my favorite reaction videos where it's like, this is the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready?
But Jake, to that point, if you get everything right, then you're a genius, right?
Yes.
But when you don't,
I don't think all
right,
of us have we done that.
No one's had it perfect. No
What's
one's
the closest we've been to perfect though?
I mean, humbly, I think I've had the best bracket the last few years, but humbly, of course.
I almost had the upset pick of the century last season.
Yes, Anthony had the Apple Core knocking off the
that's
Railers
right.
in that series in Game 3, and for a little while in that Game 3,
Apple Core had a lead in Game 3.
Oh
yeah,
my
we were
God.
texting like, "What is going on?"
That's
right.
It's what makes this fun though, because as we said all last week on the podcast, everyone calls this the halfway point, but I call it 60-40, 60% done, 40% to come. But the 40% that's to come is exhilarating, because as soon as all the teams come back from break here next week, while the points have the same value that they had in the first 60% of the season, they just push a little bit more, right? And
because they know it's on the line.
Yes, and the battles down the stretch are going to be awesome to see. And I think that's a great way for us to start going division by division. But we're going to go south to north, because we as you can imagine, for those listening at home, we were talking a lot in our group about our picks offline, because if we came online here and just did them all live, this episode would potentially take us about 3.5 hours. So
it was kind of good that you forced us with the graphic that we're making for social media too to pick them kind of by last night too, or else we still would have been churning over here.
Also, can I just file a quick complaint? I don't like how the standing page goes in alphabetical order, because the North Division is just above the South. I feel like it should be North, then East, then Central, then South. So you kind of go geographically.
That's how I did my picks, Anthony, actually. Northeast, Central, South.
And Anthony says,
Neil, man of symmetry.
Anthony says, screw the alphabet. So
yes.
I just did my picks in order of like less stressful to most stressful.
Well,
So
that's
South and East tortured me.
Yeah, well, and you could say honestly, we're gonna finish in the North for the EHL, because that was the one division where every team was picked. There's your 15-minute tease when we get back to the North. But starting in the South, how do we want to do this? We want to go around the horn, because for me, like, I'm picking Maryland because every year I pick Maryland, right? And one of these years, I'm gonna get it right.
One of these years, Murray's going to call you and say,
loyalty.
We did it.
That is loyalty.
That's what we call the gambler's fallacy, where at some point you have to get that pick right. So
you, Murray, and
Neil,
Josh
you're
are
just
going to have that
riding
conference call, Neil.
Now, I will say this. What the challenge will be from Maryland is if I can maintain that pick when we actually release the brackets in March, because I've picked it at the midway point and then not picked it again when we got to the end point. So I'm going Maryland.
All right.
Who wants to go next?
I like this. So we each go around the horn of like who we pick to win each division. We're going to do it that way.
87s.
I like that one.
Jake says 87s.
There goes Jake. Jake says 87s.
Yep, I'm going to go with 87s too. I'll admit it's a bit of a homer pick, but right now their back end's playing really well. They have a great goaltending tandem in Kyle Span and Jake Hugesson. So I think right now they're the favorites in the South.
I'm going ProTech.
Well, Tyler, let's just say this. Tyler and Trevor are also going with 87s. So there's 4 87s, 1 Maryland so far. Jeff?
Quack, quack. Let's go. All it is we say, right? Terry Watt, quack, quack, baby. I mean, let's be honest. They got absolutely clapped last year in that series. 8-0, 7-1. I had them as a qualifier last year, so thank you to last year's Ducks for making me feel not so smart. That's the other tough thing that you got. I don't know if you guys remember that. We had qualifiers last year. So we had the 4 division winners, and then we had 2 qualifiers each. I had ProTech and the Express in my qualifiers last year, but I think that's a team that's looking to really taste some revenge. Nobody saw that much of a dominating series sweep coming at the hands of the 87s, as good as they were, and they did, eventually pull it off and win the whole damn thing, as they say. And they've only played each other twice this year. Both have each gotten a win, so both still have a couple matchups to go down the stretch. I don't know. I think Adam being Adam Hooley, one of the more active coaches at the deadline. I saw them a lot at the showcase recently. They need some more offense. I think Pro Tech and New Jersey are built kind of similarly. I like goaltending on both sides. Anthony was just talking about Span with New Jersey. I really like what Pro Tech has. They have a kind of a combination of guys. They got Giroux, they got Casper. They just brought Kirschenbaum in from Vermont. So they got a lot of different guys there, goaltending wise. And then offensively, I really like Contier, like Broadfoot, Jacob Gates, David Dell in the back end. So they got the forwards and the D and the goalies that you need. And I think they just have a little bit more offense than New Jersey does. But as we always say, some of these guys might not be on the team yet that could be making an impact. And we said that with New Jersey last year. They made a lot of additions with Anastasio and Winslow. So I don't know. I'm going Pro Tech right now. We'll see if that sticks.
So that's Jeff's reasoning for Pro Tech. My reasoning for Maryland was I do this every year. All right. And then now the four guys that are choosing the 87s, the defending champions. Go on.
Yeah, so the offense definitely has been a little bit of an issue, but I think the biggest thing is like they have that top end offense. They have Lavoie, they have Gamzatov, and they have Fulkerson. What they need is depth, and depth scoring is probably easier to acquire than a marquee name guy. So I think the high end scoring is there for them. And I just think if you look at the way the 87s play, they're a playoff style team. They're never out of a game. They've only lost one game by more than 2 goals, and it was an empty netter. So, like, they always hang around. They have a heavy blue line, which is huge in the playoffs. And I trust that they'll get the pieces they need to put it together again. And the Ducks and 87s were the teams that, like, were where I was going through yesterday. And the Ducks actually have the highest win percentage within the division right now in terms of playing other teams in the division. So within that, I mean, that was what my biggest hang up was. But I don't like to trust teams that just give up a lot of goals, and the Ducks have done that. So I will go with the team that gives up the least and is the toughest to play against, in my opinion.
That's a good point too, Jake. I didn't specify as far. I just said kind of scoring overall, but you're right. They do have some they do have some of those higher echelon type scoring guys. I think you're right though. I think they need that depth. They need scoring throughout
down the lineup. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a lot of teams looking for that right now. I mean, scoring just doesn't grow on trees. Right. Exactly. I mean, Anthony would know best. Anthony, you look at you something.
I was going to say, I just wanted to add to Jake's point, especially about depth. Robert Moliterno missed some time in the lineup, and now he's back, and he's looked really good on, I want to say, that third line. He's also working with Michael Lucy. So I think as those two are gaining chemistry, they've been improving over the last couple of games. I think those could be depth players. And the 87s also are playing sort of that playoff hockey that usually we talk about with Team Maryland. Adam Hooley, the 87s coach, had said it earlier this season that this team has blocked more shots than any 87s team he's seen. It actually started last year in the playoffs, in that championship game when they beat the Express. They had that 5-minute major in the third period they had to kill off, and they just blocked a ton of shots. A couple of those defenders are still with the team. Hayden Watson, TJ Branish. They never hesitate to lay down and sacrifice the body. Isaiah McKinney too. So and also they're a pretty good 5-on-5 team. They don't rely too much on the power play. So I think with that 5-on-5 scoring, not as many penalties called in the postseason, or I think that can sort of give them the upper hand.
For sure. I do want to point out for some of the parts that we haven't mentioned in the South yet. Obviously, neither Philly team was chosen, but I think we can all say that the Philly Hockey Club and the Philly Little Flyers each at times this year, I think all 5 teams in this division actually at times have played like the best team in the division, right? Yeah. So if either of those teams gets hot at the right time, they could make some noise as well. And then like the other 2 divisions that also have 5 teams, because another reason why we're working up from south to north, South, Central, East all have 5 teams. North then has 4. This battle for the playing game is going to be huge because, you're going to hear a lot of teams talking about just get to 3. Obviously, just be the 3 seed so you can at least avoid the playing game. Give yourself at least 2 games to control your destiny. And then the final point, I should say, because Jeff just touched on this, I still can't believe that playoff series between the 87s and Ducks last year. Jeff mentioned 8-0 and 7-1. Do you know who scored first in that playoff series, Jeff?
Ducks.
The Ducks. And then it was 15
15.
unanswered. So let's see what happens this year. Obviously, a long way away from the playoffs, but the picks in the South, 4 for the defending champion 87s to at least get back to Providence, 1 for Maryland, 1 for the Ducks, and both Philly teams have just printed all of our faces to put them on their bulletin boards. Now, working.
There's a team that can prove us wrong, though, quickly. The Little Flyers, I mean, they've been frequent flyers at Schneider Arena. We've gone into the issues that they've had once they've gotten to one Schneider Arena. Alo and Mark Catron want to blow that building to smithereens, but Nate Lehman and the Friars would not appreciate that, guys.
Which you said on the air of one of your games of the showcase.
I did.
I was listening back for a highlight, and you started talking about how Snyder's going to get burnt to the ground by Alo. And I'm like, Jeff, dude, it's a really nice building.
All tongue in cheek. We're all joking. That's all. There's been plenty of athletes that wanted to knock down arenas that they didn't play well in. Dan Marino said that about Foxborough Stadium back
Barclays Center,
right?
God, yeah.
Anywho,
working up.
Back to you, Neil.
The Central from there. Different picks here in that it was unanimous with the exception of me. As you guys,
it's got to be different.
Someone has to be different, right? Clean sweep for the Railers for you guys in that division, but I'm saying Chiefs because I think that the impact, you'll see an announcement for this soon, of Jack Lee going to college now, which again, let's just go off this track for a second. It's awesome that he can go to college. Off this track, right? Yeah, well, I guess no pun intended, but definitely a pun.
Nice one.
Thanks. Nice. So, this is why we're here, right? To get the players to college ultimately. And if you have the chance to do it right now, then you should take advantage of it, right? Like we always have at least 1 or 2 players a year that are going at the midway point. We've never had this many skaters per year going at the midway point. When you talk about Scott Kremen from Team Maryland going to SUNY Canton, and then Brendan Schmidt and Jack Lee, 2 announcements that you'll see soon, both going to Nichols for the second half. So maybe I'm going out on a limb here, but I think Jack Lee is their best forward, and I think that impact could be huge. And maybe I want to just be different too. You guys tell me why that it won't be the Chiefs and it's be the Railers. Any of you can go first because you all picked them.
Jake, do you want to go last since you're the resident Railers fan?
Yeah, I got to recover after hearing this stuff about Lee, so you can go ahead.
Well, wait, you want to say his nickname first, Jake?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Jesus Christ.
Yep. Jesus Christ.
Risen, and now he has left us.
Oh, God. I mean, I'll go first. I mean, the Railers, they just have too much for that Central Division for anyone else to prove me that someone else is going to beat them in a playoff series. I just don't see it. I mean, I know that we've talked about the Chiefs. Rhode Island's been a great addition to the EHL this year as an expansion team. Apple Core played teams tough at times. Rough Riders have played teams tough at times. But when all is said and done, I just don't think any of those teams have enough to overcome the Railers. Losing Jack Lee will hurt. I mean, he was a huge addition when he came back, right? He was out the first 4 or 5 games of the year. And immediately when Coach Bertoni got him back and inserted him, it was a huge difference maker. And that's the game of hockey, right? We all know that. You can get one player and that just kind of moves everybody around line-wise. And he has been, the second best points getter on the team, but a returner that's been there for a while that is really well liked. And, congrats to you, Jack, that you're going to Nichols. That's awesome. Like Neil said, that's what we're here for. As much as we might be sad to not see him with the Railers down the stretch, it is what it is. But I mean, I think another big thing too about this team is still feeling the loss of Coach A. I mean, that's a dangerous thing for a team to be playing with something like that behind them. We've seen a lot in pro sports, college sports. People lose a significant other. They use that as a momentum booster, and they have it take them all the way to the promised land. So I think that's something dangerous. And then I mean, Stefan Kulonic, right? He's on our all-time wins list. He's trying to pass Nate Miller. He's close. He's got 46 wins. I think he's got something to prove in his age-out year. Has been playing better as of late, even though LaPierre kind of took the net from him a little bit. But that'll be an interesting conversation for Coach Bertoni. Is it going to be LaPierre or Kulonic game one of the playoffs? Does anyone have an answer about that right now? I don't think we truly do. But I just don't think the competition behind the Railers is good enough for anyone to pass them.
Yeah, I guess I'll springboard off that, Jeff. First, I just want to wish the best of luck to Jesus Christ Superstar as he goes into college. But
another good one, you and Jake.
I just think that the Railers are just so deep all throughout, forwards, defensemen, goaltending, where I think that they can recover from the loss of Jack Lee. The other thing too is that the Railers P team is stacked. So I think that if they have to get someone from the P team to go up and play for the EHL team, then it's a next man up mentality that I think sort of embodies the entire Railers organization. Mm-hmm. And I guess as to what Jeff said, no offense to the rest of that division, but unless maybe there's an upset, I could see maybe HC Rhode Island coming out of that division, but it's the Railers to lose right now. They're the clear favorites, and that's why I have them winning the division.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. It's the Railers division to lose. Like Jeff said, what's behind them is just not great. I mean, the depth and high end scoring of the Railers blows away every team in the division. They're outscoring the other teams in the division by a lowest amount of 24. There are teams that they're outscoring by over 30 goals in that division. And Lee is a tremendous loss. I agree. I think he's the Railers' best player. He's an every situations kind of guy. And he's a tremendous skater. He gives defenders fits, and it's tough to see him go, but like he's a great dude, and I'm very excited that he gets to do what he wants to do with his life and gets to move on with his hockey career. But their depth scoring is great. I mean, they have other high-end guys, Lombardi, McAleer, Boyer's turning into a revelation on the blue line, especially as of late, and he's become an outstanding 200-foot defenseman. He could chip in offensively in any given situation. He's got like 4 or 5 power play goals this year. And then you have guys like Carney and Soulier, and Lemansky's putting in points again. Charlie Odessa's having a great season, even offensively. He's sprinkling points in here and there. Thor Hansen's been a great addition. I call him Thor Handsome, and he's been awesome this season, like joining the team. So I think down the lineup, they just are more effective than all other teams. But I do agree, Anthony. I think if there's a sleeper team in the division, it's HC Rhode Island. They play with a fire in their belly every game they play. And they were one of the more fun teams to watch at Newington. So if they could get more of that down the stretch, then it could be interesting. It could be interesting for them.
Maybe it's a little different comparison, but maybe they're kind of like last year's Wolves team. None of us really had them on the radar. And speaking of playing games, they went into the Breakaway Ice Center, stole one from the Rangers, and walked into the Frozen Finals. Everyone was like, whoa.
Even after botching a 3-on-0.
Even after that,
they botched it. Jake, the Wolves had botched a 3-on-0, but they scored like 5 seconds later on the very next play, so it all worked out. But I remember watching that because Jeff, you were on the call for that.
I was and I almost like, lost my lunch. It was like, how is this wide open? 3, none. Where? Hello, Rangers.
So Rhode Island is currently in that I guess we can now call it pivotal third position, which avoids the 4-5 matchup. So a division that's going to be very interesting to watch as well. I would say different in comparison to the South is the Railers currently own a 10-point lead for the top spot. So obviously with our playoff format, we do go back and forth in our playoff series, but that whole saying the road to Providence goes through Worcester, I think still holds true for at least the majority of the games. They're going to most
geographically
likely,
not so much.
Yeah, but they're you got to go up to go
You're
down.
A geography guy,
yeah, right.
Hey.
But in terms of their lead in the division, they're most likely going to be the number 1 seed. So
Yeah.
The detour to Providence goes through Worcester. There you go, Jeff.
Well done, sir. Well
But
done.
now we'll go to the East, which I think in our group chat, this group was having the toughest time with.
I spent 3 hours on the East yesterday.
Wow.
You started talking about this. I think it was 10:45 in the morning.
And Jake
And
was sitting
I
there
left
with
for
his
the Islander
9
game at
tabs.
5:15, and I may have left the couch 3 times. And every time I was like food, bathroom, food. That was the alternation.
Wow. He spent that much time on the East Division.
Well,
So,
no, not in the East, everybody, but the East
Yeah.
is like a good hour and a half.
so then why don't you lead off with your pick for the East?
Jack Boschert is my pick for the East.
Okay.
Jack Boshert's going to win the whole East himself.
Nobody else is going to the finals, only Jack Bosher.
Not even the Express
trust-
themselves, just their
Dude, if I
goalies.
was like behind a net or something, I was just getting like pucks ripped at me. I would want that guy like saving my life just in front of me. I trust him.
I'd do that too.
Goalies are the
Man.
biggest equalizer in the sport. So I go with the Express. I said it yesterday in the chat. I was going to compare them to the Islanders. They don't give a lot on their blue line. They have really strong goaltending, and their offense is a bit lacking, but they come up big, and recency plays a little bit of a factor. They're on a 5-game win streak, and I think this Express of late is the real Express. Bosch has been unconscious lately, but they've been getting offense from everywhere in their lineup. They've been getting it from the blue line. And I think they're a team that's like a quick strike team. I watched all their games at the showcase, and I watched the game where they shut out the Railers, and then they beat the Spartans just the day before, and I got to watch both of those games as well. And the way they're able to spend a shift in their own zone, not allow a dangerous shot, and then come right back up in transition and score a goal. They did it against the Railers, and they did it against the Spartans, and that's a good way to play. I mean, if you could quick strike when the iron's hot, and just rely on solid defense, I think Aiden Bright's a stud. I think Jubron's a very good player. And I think the biggest difference between them last year and this year is just discipline. They had the least penalty kill the time shorthanded in the league last year. They're in the top half this year, so that will need to change. But they allow less goals per game than they did last year at this point, and they score just slightly less. So the formula is pretty similar. The numbers are pretty similar compared to last year, and the biggest similarity is Jack Boschert.
Which I have him pulled
Well
up
done,
here
Jake.
now. Because actually, I remember there was one interview, Jake, when you introduced Jack and his beautiful blonde hair.
Yes,
That may have been at the All-Star Classic.
it was.
But I'm not sure if you knew this, but you used the word unconscious.
Yes.
What he did in the
Yes.
postseason last year
Great.
was sickening. I mean, he was 6-2 with a 107 and a 967. Like it was
293 saves on 303 shots. Holy
Cracked.
yeah, just like last week.
There it is. Cracked. We
I mean,
all
this
learned
was
that one.
the crazy game. This was the game that won the 3 overtimes with the Wizards.
Oh, 73
107
shots.
Longest game in
17 minutes.
AHL history.
Yep.
Yeah.
71 saves. I mean, he never gave up more than 2 goals, and he's kind of on that same path right now.
Well, how about that? It's easier days of work or the championship game and the semifinal game.
That's crazy.
21 saves, 22 saves. All the
I mean,
other
I
ones,
should
34.
really just save this one page, this win for the Wizards that kept their season alive. Like it was just
That was insane.
craziest game probably ever. So
Yeah, that's up there.
Jake is not the only person that is picking the Express. Tyler also has the Express. So we do have a little bit more balance here compared to the previous division where it was 5-1 Railers to Chiefs. Like I just said, there's 2 Express. I think we have then 2 Rangers, if I'm not mistaken, and 2 Seahawks. Is that correct, guys?
Yeah, I know. I have, and I think that sounds right for everyone else.
I have the Seahawks.
Sorry, there's
So me and Anthony both had Seahawks.
yes,
then.
and then me and Trevor both have Rangers. So Seahawks, guys, you can go next.
All right, I'll take a stab at it. Seahawks. I think this year's maybe surprise team, a team that's been knocking on the door for a little while here, beat the Warriors in that playing game last year. And then much like ProTech with New Jersey, I think the Seahawks are looking for revenge against the Rangers. I mean, they've righted the ship. They beat the Rangers 2 out of 3 times this year in the regular season after getting beat pretty bad by them last year. And they got swept. It was 1-0 and 6-0. So two different variety of losses there for Coach Zamboni. And I think they're a team that's hungry and has the right formula that we've been talking about with all these other teams. One of the top power plays in the league, behind just the Railers Hockey Club, just 25, just a little under 25%. They're converting at their power plays. Railers still over 30%. That is stupid. But the Seahawks have that good combination of great power play, great penalty kill. And that's important because I think the way the Seahawks play, they're a heavier team at times. They like to hit you. They like to beat you up. They embody what Coach Zamboni has, which is a tough coach that asks a lot out of his players. Another team that's got all sorts of stars on both ends. You get Scott McManus has been one of the most talked about players here in the last few showcases. Has really developed his game. You got Jubron on the back end. Cade Herrera's got 15 goals since coming to the Cape, and he's only played, I think, 17 or so games now. Another good goalie combo. You're getting Drolowitz and Rolf. Rolf might be a game changer. He's a guy that I know that Coach Zamboni really, really liked coming into the year. Broke his hand, just came back, only played 2 games. And like Jake was saying about in-division records, they've beaten the Wizards the only time they played them. They beat the Express 2 out of 3 times, Rangers 2 out of 3 times, and they've swept the Warriors. So against all the teams that they will be playing in the playoffs, they've dominated, for lack of a better word, so far. So I think it's time for another new team to get to the Frozen Finals in the East, and I think that's the Seahawks.
Yeah, I think I picked the Seahawks for a very similar reason, Jeff. Just because they're my most likely upset pick, where they've got a little bit of everything. They have players who can score. You talk about Herrera. I sort of think of it like a Matt Anastasio sort of acquisition, comparing to the 87s, like the homer I am. But you have guys like McManus, Jubron, Hans Forselius. He's a great playmaker that can make teammates around him better.
Yeah.
And
sorts
also,
of guys I didn't even name.
Colin Angelovich. In that 1-0 game with the 87s that I was on the call for, Angelovich made some really good saves on net mouth scrambles, some rebounds. He's a terrific goaltender, and I think that you talk about Rolf. I think that you have that sort of 1A, 1B situation where it doesn't matter who you put in net, they're always going to give you a chance to win. Where, I think the Seahawks have the potential to surprise a lot of people coming out of that division, and that's why I'm picking them.
Wait, is that a new pronunciation too? Androlowicz?
I spoke with him before the game, Angelovich.
Androlowicz. Oof, and I thought Androlowicz was tough. Androlowicz.
I always thought it was Androlowicz because I called games for his older brother when he played for the Nordiques in the North American Hockey League.
No way.
But then I spoke to him before the game. He said Androlowicz, so that's what I'm going by now.
Thank you, Anthony. There we
Whatever Anthony goes by, we
go by. Yep. When I saw Jake and Anthony working together, our two reporters nodding their heads at Androlowicz, I was like, oh man, I missed that one. Well done, squad.
We have touched on some commitments while we're on this podcast, kind of like breaking news style, if you will. Right. So I will also give a shout out to Scott McManus, who just committed to Suffolk, but not for the second half of the season. He is finishing out this year, then going to Suffolk. That probably would have been
says thank you.
That probably would have been wrong of me if he was going right now to withhold that information from you guys. And then have you make that pick.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think that would be a little rude.
Insider information.
Yeah. So this division, as we mentioned before, the South was the votes were 4-1-1, 87s, Ducks, Maryland. The Central was 5-1, Railers, Chiefs. The East is 2-2-2, Rangers, Seahawks, and Express. And we'll wrap it up with the Rangers, who, if you want to play that revenge card, if you will.
Let's hear it, Neil.
They want to get back to Providence for the first time since the first Frozen Finals, right?
That's right. They did all their noise in Philly.
Yeah, the one that they won was in Philly. That was the COVID year, right? They haven't been in Providence since the first year. And technically
EHL.
EHL, and technically you could say that the EHL Rangers have never won a game at Snyder Arena because they lost all their games that year there, right? So there is this huge revenge factor there, and I think even more important for me to watch, if the standings stay as is, and the Seahawks and the Express are the 2-3 matchup, that's why I feel better about the Rangers going, because I think the Seahawks Express, they could play 55 games and they would alternate every single one the whole way, right? So,
I agree.
And then I think when it comes to the Rangers getting the Warriors or the Wizards, they've kind of had those two teams' numbers for the most part, right? So thinking way too far ahead, if the Rangers face off whoever kicks the crap out of each other between the Seahawks and Express in that second round, I just have that feeling the Rangers will be more rested at that point and ready to get back to Providence for that revenge. Now, again, we could see these standings shuffle and I reset my bracket a whole different way when we get to the East Division in March. But I do like the fact that we went 2-2-2 in that division, because that then segues us up all the way to the North, the one division that does not have a play-in game, but does have us. Every one of the four teams got picked, and I guess Anthony, don't get mad, but I'll say what the Wolves would have said to me, that they are shocked that you're picking the Wolves to win the North and not the 87s.
What? Well said, Andrew Trimble. I mean, well said, Neil Rabbit.
He would say that, though. He would say the 87s are not winning the North, Anthony. What? But why are the Wolves going to win the North, Anthony?
I mean, first off, the 87s don't even play in North Jersey. So what is he talking about? I'd like if they played in North Jersey. That would make the commute much easier for me and Chris. But I think for the Wolves, same thing with the 87s. They have a lot of players who were in Providence last season. You got AJ Lakis, Eddie's Grigorievs, and Trevor Jewell, where I know he was the backup to Kilgallen, but Jewell did get to play a game in Providence. He picked up the shutout last season in a round robin game. So, and the thing about the North Division too, there are no wrong answers. You could go with any four of these teams, and it would be the right answer. So I just think for the Wolves, they have that experience. They face adversity in the playoffs. They had that, that fierce series against the Vermont Lumberjacks. They beat the Junior Rangers, who were, a pretty clear favorite, even after the Rangers had to go into that play-in game. So I think for New England, they want to kind of repeat that magic from their Cinderella run. And I think they have what it takes. They have the scoring, they've got the defense, they've got the goaltending, where I know they hit a bit of a funk coming into the holiday break, but sort of the 87s, they had their own funk. They were able to make that run in the second half. I think the Wolves can do that same thing.
So there's one pick for the Wolves. I'm picking the Avalanche, but I want to go last with that because we do have 2 picks for the Lumberjacks and 2 picks for the Spartans. So who wants to go first? Lumberjacks, or actually the ones that are picking the Spartans aren't even here right now. So we'll just talk about them for a second.
I was tempted. I was tempted
too, Jay. I was tempted. Me and Jake
really was.
That almost went from 2 Spartans to 4 Spartans. I had them initially. I changed them.
Spartans fan. I think they're super legit.
Me too.
I think their defense, even though they're not the most offensive bunch, like they don't give up much at all. And Fatadad's another goalie that I trust 100%. But what stopped me from picking them is that they have yet to play the Avs and the Wolves, so their individual sample size is a little too small for me. And the pick that I had is a team that's played every team so far. But I'll let you go ahead, Neil, where you were going with the Spartans.
Well, yeah. So it's Trevor and Tyler, the 2 T's that are picking the Spartans, right?
The quiet T.
Well, no, because it's funny because the 2 J's,
yes,
and Jeff and Jake are picking the Lumberjacks, right?
Yeah,
I love symmetry, Jeff. I love it.
Yes, you do. Look at you.
The Spartans, just as I said in their Stars of the Month post where we highlighted Drew Oliveri, they have the most prolific line in the league with Maxwell Prey and Oliveri. So that's probably what they're going to lean on down the stretch. And we'll be curious to see I think Tyler said last week on the podcast that they account for like 55% of the team's goals or something like that. So
That's
we'll
what
see.
worries me.
We'll see if that holds up as we get into the postseason. But
they look a little too real quick. They look a little too Boston Bruins of the years past ish. That top line moves, they move. That top line gets stopped, which we all know playoffs are tough, and you can just have your best defensive forwards and D just stop that line, and then everything else gets plugged up. So that's what really scares me and kind of pushed me away from the Spartans. But real quick, like Jake said, I do like Fatadad Skelton. That's a nice combo. Coach Strider, we love him. He's an absolute beauty. We'd love to have him down in Providence, and maybe they will get there, or maybe we'll change.
Also, I realized how sick of a defenseman Hughes was at Newington.
Yep.
That dude is gross. He can move it really well.
Yeah.
You talk about Strider. I still love that quote from Newington. I want to bring that up again, where I was talking to him before one of his games, and he said, yeah, I switched up my systems this year and I see how well I'm doing. He said, I don't know if I should be happy that our team is doing so well, or if I should be upset that I wasted the first 20 years of my life coaching. My first 20 years coaching, where he finally switches something up.
That's right.
So that transitions us into the two Jays that are picking the Lumberjacks. And I guess you could say the best mustache in the league getting back to Providence.
Ooh, yeah. I think so. And hopefully this best mustache will be able to avoid the rubber coming his way. We don't want to see Seth leaking any blood from that ear like he was last year. Poor guy. Jeez. And didn't he get ripped at the showcase again this year? At one of them?
Haverhill, he took a ricochet. Yeah.
Come on, Puck. Stay away from that handsome mug of Seth.
I would go near his face too, though.
The Puck's just like, ooh, you're just so handsome. I just want to see you. But I mean, I think that is a huge part of it. I mean, well, let's just start that off. Neil, when I picked Vermont, I changed from Seacoast to Vermont yesterday, and Neil sent us a picture in the group text of one Seth Gustin and one Jack Lowry. But I mean, all jokes aside, we do love both of them. I mean, Seth's talked to both of us, to all of us throughout the year. Their former EHL premier coach. Lumberjacks, if we look it up, another nerd exercise for us to do, are probably one of the best teams at moving guys from premier to EHL. They have a really, really good retention rate of keeping people. They tend to retain the majority of guys that come up to Vermont. And I think Seth has said to us, he's like a combo of a coach and like a dad to some of these guys. He's like seen them grown up over the last few years. And I think that that's another dangerous thing when you got a guy like Seth that's a younger coach that really relates to these guys, is a smart coach. Then you got someone like Jack Lowry that is an older coach that has a lot of experience and has been a lot of different places. I think that's a dangerous thing. I mean, they've beat up on the North like the Seahawks have beat up on the East. They beat the Avs 2 out of 3 games. They've beat the Wolves twice. They beat the Spartans twice. Those are the only 2 matchups against the Wolves and Spartans. They lost to the Wolves last year, if we remember correctly, 2-1. One of those losses was in game 2, was in overtime. So a little weird. I don't know if this is truly, if this is too off the beaten path, but Gillerman, the backup goalie now for Vermont, used to play for the Wolves. Maybe his secret weapon, knows the Wolves a little bit, could potentially give them a little help with strategizing if they meet in the playoffs. Just something to chew on. I mean, it's happened in years past where guys have left teams, and it happens in the pros and college all the time. Guys leave teams and like, hey, we know exactly what so-and-so does at this time. And then, I mean, just their depth too. They get 12 double-digit scores. Talking about scoring throughout, they got the top end with Daigneault and Louis-Joseph Guernon and Collins. But then you got guys like Wurzing and Trent King. I mean, the list just goes on and on. So I think that that's a team built for success and built for to win that North, beat that tough division. I don't even know. Like, who was it? Anthony that just said that you really can't go wrong with any. There really isn't. That's another division like the East. I'm sure, Jake, that took you many hours yesterday. It took me many hours, and you really just don't have any wrong answers. That was well said, Anthony.
And they really do have a lot of P guys that have seamlessly transitioned to the EHL. Yeah. I mean, Hayden Bullock, I remember he was really good last season for the P team.
Wurzing was a premier player of the year a couple years ago.
Trent King, he was on the P team last season. He got a taste of some EHL action last season, but now he's out there full time. I mean, I remember
Iloqua's been great for them.
Yep, calling their games in Providence last season, and they went up against the Avalanche in the semifinal, and they had a goal disallowed because of goaltender interference. So I think that would have been the tying goal. So I think for Seth and a lot of those players, they remember that sting, and I think they're going to be motivated to go back. I know I picked the Wolves, but I mean, I could just as easily see the Lumberjacks heading to Providence with that experience between the coaches and the players.
I picked the Lumberjacks, and I could just so easily see the Wolves going.
Yeah.
I could see the Avs winning it, which I think Neil's going to get to the Avs now, but the best team in the league, and none of us have picked them yet.
Unless
Here comes Chris. What? You
unless
idiot.
Jake wanted to add one more comment about the Lumberjacks.
I just like what Jeff said about Seth being a daddy. I think that was probably the most accurate position anybody's taken today.
I went there.
Look, I agree. It's such a tight division. I think the only thing that I can really go by right now is that individual record. They're 7-1 in that division. Sometimes that'll transfer over, sometimes it won't. But their goals for is the best in the division. Their differential is the second behind the Avs. My second pick would have actually been the Spartans, but Lumbies just have that track record right now within the division. And I think that they could still outscore any issues they have. Their forwards are tough. They're not just solely skill guys. They're not afraid to muck it up. And I have a lot of faith in Billiquay, 928 save percentage. I think he's the guy you can look at for a deep playoff run too.
And I'll take the team that has the best record in the league, guys. Thanks.
Right? That's what I'm saying.
They don't even have 5 losses in regulation yet. Thanks.
Somewhere Chris Rowe's like, when are they getting to the Avalanche? Hello? Let me skip ahead. Where is this? Hello?
We've had
None of you idiots? Hello?
We've had 4 editions of the Frozen Finals. They have been in all of them. So the Frozen Finals don't happen without the Avalanche, right?
And the Frozen Finals go through Hookset, Neil? Is that right?
Well, so if you're going to go through Worcester, you might as well just go even further north to go south, right?
Just bang a quick 2 more hours north.
But you could honestly make the case that as prolific as the Priomax line is for Seacoast, McKiernan and Dan Hotchkiss is the same thing with the Avalanche. We are the 2 best lines in the league are separated by 30 minutes in one state. Like it's just it's just crazy to think about. Like 6 of the top 15 forwards in the league, maybe, right, are right there in that state. I think the biggest key for the Avalanche will be who they match up with. If they match up against the Lumberjacks, it's like, at least in the first round, I think it's a little bit of a scarier matchup because for all series in that division, in all divisions, we're going 1-1-1, right? So I think whoever gets Vermont, especially if they host Vermont in game 1, what if Vermont wins that game 1 on the road, right? And then you have to go there to keep your season alive. That's scary.
Barnes, tough travel.
That's a pretty scary thought. And that's the way it lines up right now. If the playoffs started today, right? As the Avs would host games 1 and 3 against the Lumberjacks, but then they would go up there for game 2. And you know what the message would be in Vermont. I just win 1 there in Hookset, right? So I think that's the biggest key is who matches up against who, and it's going to be crazy to see how it all shakes out in that division. Right now, the Lumberjacks have played the fewest number of games at 26. Wolves have the most played at 30, but you can make the case that the 1 and 2 seeds lose those 2 series. You know what I mean? Like, if it could happen in any division, it could happen there. So that does it for the EHL. So now we'll switch over to the EHLP. And the biggest difference, of course, being that while we have 4 divisions in the EHL, we only have 3 in the EHLP, which means there's going to be an at-large as well. So I think for this division, we'll just go around the horn and talk about our 4 picks in total, and then move on to the next person, right? So I will start. And it's like, I think it's kind of funny that as different as we all feel about the North Division of the EHL, we're all kind of on the same page. And the New England Division of the EHLP, where we start off with the Lumberjacks. I think the biggest key for me to watch with them is they haven't played a game since December 2nd, so I'm sure they're itching to get back on the ice right now. I have the Railers knocking off the Rangers in the Boston Division Finals, facing off for a chance to go to the Frozen Finals for the third straight year. So there's two of my teams. And then I have the Huntsmen knocking off the 87s in the Mid-Atlantic Division Finals. But I have the 87s still having then the next best record between them and the Boston and the New England Division losers. So the 87s would still go. So my four teams for the EHL pre-Frozen Finals today would be Lumberjacks, Railers, Huntsmen, and 87s. Who wants to go next?
Anybody?
I'll go. So I'll start with New England. Abs. I used this word last week for them. Cracked. Their firepower is ridiculous. Top 10 scorers in the EHLP. Needham, Atkinson, Gazzardi, Derico or Dorico, not sure how it's said, and Gallant are all there. That's wild. There's no team in the league that compares to that. And I think they've been playing really good hockey as of late. Their power play has been better. They've scored 7 goals in their last 4 games in the power play. They draw the most power plays in the league. They have 116 power plays drawn. Whistles go in the pockets a little bit more in the playoffs, but they still have that firepower that I'm not worried about their power play being able to convert. Their defense, not the best, but they're a physical group. They may not be the biggest size-wise, but they play the corners well. They seal off the wall well. Curtis and Ryan Dan are 2 guys that could chip in offensively. And I trust Gerard. Gerard's a good goalie. He's got 3 shutouts on the year. He's a more than capable starter. So I'll go Abs for New England. For Boston, I couldn't choose any other team. I have to go with the Railers. I wouldn't be able to show my face at work if I didn't pick the Railers. BJR is nasty. There's no doubt about that. I think offense, I go slight edge BJR. Defense, I'll give slight edge to Railers. They have a nice blend of size and speed. And BJR's blue line, they have Eric Kellyan. His health is the biggest question for them because he's an absolute horse. So, I mean, if he can play, it changes everything for them. Pappas, too. Where will he be playing, P or E? Mellis, where will he be playing, P or E? They're different teams without these guys. So that's huge. And goaltending is the biggest. That's my biggest difference maker in the playoffs. You can't go far without great goaltending. I think Aiden Healy is the best of the best in the EHLP. So I'll go with the Railers. For the Mid-Atlantic, I'll go make Anthony happy. I'll go with the 87s. It's a tough call. Huntsman and 87s are 2 teams that have really honestly benefited from playing so many in-division games. So I'll look at outside the division and head-to-head. So Huntsman lead the head-to-head 3-1. And outside of it, both teams have lost to the Avalanche. They both lost to Adirondack. The 87s have beaten the Chiefs, Seahawks, and Warriors. The Huntsmen have lost to the Warriors and Seahawks and the Express as well. So outside the division, I think the 87s has the edge, and I think that's the best way to look at the difference right now. I think the 87s are the tougher team to play against. They're more disciplined. Their team save percentage is higher. Ty Jones has faced over 35 shots in nearly 50% of the games he's played. It's been a fifth of that time for Golden and Larico. So I just trust the 87s more, and that's my pick. And my at-large bid will be the Boston Junior Rangers by virtue of having the next most points, and they will be probably back with a vengeance if that's the case.
All right, down to the last 2 that are present here. Anthony, Jeff, who wants to go next?
Anthony, I'll let you go if you want. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. EHLP.
I just have one of the divisions swapped with Jake, where I think it's going to be the Boston Junior Rangers coming out of that Boston division. I think the Railers are going to get the loyalty.
I go 87s, and you're going to throw the Rangers in my face.
Well, because the Boston Junior Rangers P team is coming off his 3rd EHLP title. I think that the Junior Rangers EHLP program is just one of the best right now.
Yeah,
and just like I said with the Railers in the EHL level, I think for the Junior Rangers, it's theirs to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think Boston, they're very evenly round out. They have the experience of, not only getting there, but also winning it. But I think because the Railers have also been so dominant this year, 26-1 record, that's just unheard of right now. where I think that the Railers should not have too much trouble also finding a way into Providence. For the New England division, I think that's a tough one. I'm going to go with the Lumberjacks. I think you still have a couple of players from that P team last season who are there. I mean, right now they have they're tied for the best goal differential with the Avalanche, plus 34. They have Pepe Della Quadri. They have Brendan Manning, George Letourneau, all some really good players. I think Vincent Perrant. If I'm not mistaken, wasn't he a late acquisition last season for Vermont?
I can't totally remember.
I'm trying to remember too. You might be right, Anthony. I forget.
I mean, I know he's been having a pretty good season at the P level, so I think for the Lumberjacks, they're going to come out of that division. And then, Jake, just like what you said, picking the Railers, you want to be able to show your face at work. That's why I'm picking the 87s, but also because they're having a good year. That matchup right before the holiday break was kind of a weird one against the Huntsmen. Also, the 87s were missing quite a few forwards from that lineup. There was no Poligo. They were missing some of their better defensemen. Tyler Branish wasn't playing. So I definitely want to see how those matchups at the end of the season will go or later on between the 87s and the Huntsmen. The other weird thing, the road team has won every single matchup. The Huntsmen have won twice so far at Jersey Shore Arena. The 87s won, or no, I think the Huntsmen won 3 matchups at Jersey Shore Arena, and the 87s won the lone matchup in Pennsylvania. But bit of a homer pick, but I think that the 87s will walk away from that division.
But they're good, so I mean, it's
and they also have more experience.
Last
week we were talking about Ivan Borisov potentially becoming the all-time leading scorer for the EHLP. He's already the leading scorer for the 87s P team.
Yeah.
So I think he could also be a central figure to that playoff run.
With an EHLP title on his resume already.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, want to wrap us up?
All right, I'll go through quick because I know we're getting up to the time bug. So New England division, yes, all these divisions, different names, sponsorships to come. We're going to change those in the offseason. Maybe not. I don't know. Vermont Lumberjacks, I think, are going to win the New England division. Anthony mentioned Della Quadri, FX Marois. They're just another team that's like their EHL team. They're just loaded with speed, offense, good goaltending, good coaching, and they can kind of do it all. So I think that they're kind of not an easy pick for the New England division because, like we mentioned, the Wolves, Avalanche, Adirondack Junior Thunder. We've been talking about them a lot in the East Show this year. They could be a surprise team in their first year. Wouldn't be surprised to maybe see them knock us off. The Boston division, I kind of went back and forth. I picked Rangers, but now, there's still a lot of season left to go. I think I was the only one that didn't pick the Railers. And now what I'm starting to think is, I think it was Jake that mentioned it earlier, or Anthony, one of you or both of you. If they end up having to lose some guys to the EHL team to make up for the loss of Jack Lee, because maybe it's not just one player that is able to take over and give you what Lee did. Maybe it's multiple guys, that maybe that has a little bit of a shake up in the wrong way for the Railers P team that kind of sends them looking for more offense. I know they are loaded, but if you take a guy like O'Malley and maybe Swain, like a couple of different guys, maybe it's a forward and a D, maybe it's 2 forwards. I'm not sure. Maybe that kind of messes up the puzzle piece there with the Railers, but maybe not. I mean, I talked about the EHL team, the premier team also playing with heavy hearts, losing coach Odessa. So that could be a team that will be scary. I pick Rangers. We'll see if that sticks when we do the brackets. Might go to Railers. Who knows? Mid-Atlantic, I had 87s because what Neil just said, and I think that's a team with a lot of experience, hungry to get back to the EHL Premier Frozen Finals after winning it during the COVID year. Had a tough year last year. And then I had the at-large team as, Zach Overholtzer, my new best friend. PA Huntsman, baby. Want to see the new PA Huntsman in the Frozen Finals. And I think they have a good chance of getting there. So they're my at-large, and that's it.
I think it fits then for those that aren't with us on the podcast or resting their eyelids and resting their souls over the break. They match up, right? Tyler and Trevor, they're EHLP picks. Both choose Lumberjacks, both choose Rangers, both choose 87s, both choose Railers at large. It's actually they're almost perfect when you include Spartans, Railers, 87s in the EHL. The only difference they have is Tyler has the Express winning the East in the EHL, and Trevor has the Rangers winning the East in the EHL. So literally 7 of the 8 match up perfectly. But that does it for our annual tradition, which also included an interview. Jake interviewed Austin Master at the beginning of this episode, so make sure to tune back and listen to that as he gets set to compete in the World University Games. He's currently the captain at Stevenson. So there you go. We even touched on a little bit of Philly there at the very beginning of the podcast. So we'll see who talks to us and who doesn't at the January showcase.
Looks the other way at Exeter.
Yeah, because that could definitely happen.
Yeah.
But we will be back next week, ready to once again start to preview some game action, reset our fantasy picks, and get set for this final 2-month stretch before the postseason. We'll talk to you guys then.
Thanks for listening to The E-Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.